What is up, everyone? Welcome back to the Amazing Dinosaurs channel. Today we're checking out a vintage collection of Jurassic Park figures, and I've also got some of the 30th anniversary special Jurassic Park figures that just came out as well. Let's start with some of these biggest dinosaurs. Here, I believe, is a custom colored T-Rex. This is the Bull T-Rex, which can actually swallow smaller dinosaurs all the way to its stomach compartment right down there. And let's compare that with the original painting of the Bull T-Rex here. This is JP28. It's got the yellow and green coloring with the black stripes on top. And of course, this one can eat smaller dinosaurs too. Up next is another T-Rex figure. This one is JP29. This figure also has the real feel skin over most of its body. The only hard plastic parts are its arms and its legs. Next up is another giant T-Rex figure. This is the red version, and this looks to be actually the old version of this new one that we'll check out right after this. It's got the real feel skin all over its body. It has some pretty cool coloring with the dark red and the black stripes and spots. And when you squeeze on its stomach, it can open and close its mouth, or at least it used to be able to. So now let's compare that with the new Jurassic Park electronic real feel Tyrannosaurus Rex. And here it is, the new version of the Jurassic Park T-Rex. Let's go ahead and take out this tag to hear the sound effects. Now this figure also has the real feel skin, although it is a little bit less rubbery than the old vintage version. But you can see that it still is pretty flexible, and of course its tail is also the real feel texture too. That's pretty cool. Those are some epic roaring sound effects. Let's dive back into the bin now. I've got some of the classic eggs that have the baby dinosaurs in it, so let's see what's in this one. Alright, this one is JP58, which I think is maybe a Velociraptor baby, or a T-Rex. I actually can't tell. Next up, I've got the Stegosaurus figure in the back here with the huge battle damage on its side. This is JP24 and also has some real feel skin too. And also an interesting feature with this figure is that you can move this spine to wiggle its tail. Here is the Utah Raptor. This raptor is quite a lot larger than many of my other Velociraptor figures. It is JP22, and it features a chomping movement when you press down on its tail. Next here is a winged dinosaur. This one is pretty old and worn. I believe it is a pteranodon. It has a spring-loaded mouth, and its wings are actually a soft fabric instead of a rubber or anything like that. And there's a button on its back so that you can flap its wings. Here's a decent sized dinosaur. This is the Pachycephalosaurus figure. This figure is wearing this backpack type thing. It's probably held some gadgets or something like that. You can see that there's a little bit of skin that you can open up right here. That's actually battle damage. And this figure's head is actually spring loaded, so it'll launch its head forwards. But unfortunately it's broken, so it doesn't work the right way anymore. Why don't we go ahead and grab another one of the new collector's items. This is the Jurassic Park 30th Anniversary Nano Scene. Let's go ahead and open it up. And here we go. This is a cool little miniature scene. You can see that there's two of the Jurassic Park cars here. Got the Jeep and then the classic car. And you can have them drive up to the Jurassic Park gates where the gates can open up. And on the other side are some Velociraptors waiting. And you can even see some T-Rex footprints too. This is pretty cool. I'm actually going to go ahead and put this up on my display shelf. Alright, back to the bin. I've got a giant Triceratops figure. This one has the real feel skin as well. You can see the giant battle damage right on its shoulder right there. And just like with the T-Rex that we saw earlier, you can press its stomach to move its head. Back here, I think this is another Velociraptor figure. This is from Jurassic Park 3, and this figure has the dark brown skin with a light underbelly and some interesting red coloring along the top. Here is another real feel dinosaur. This one is a juvenile T-Rex. It is JP06. It also has the massive battle damage on its side. And this specific figure, I feel like, is a lot more squishy than even some of the other ones. Up next is a Triceratops figure. This is JP44. It has the camo green coloring with the green-blue coloring along the top, and a roaring action when you move its leg. This next dinosaur looks pretty similar, but I think it's actually called a Chasmoceratops. This is JP21, and I think it might even have a larger frill compared to the Triceratops. And it's even got sound effects too. Up next is an old Spinosaurus figure. This one is pretty bright. It is JP39 and is pretty small compared to a lot of the newer Spinosaurus figures. And check that out, when you move its arm, you can also open and close its mouth too. This next one I think is another Velociraptor figure. This one has striping all over its body. It is JP18, and I don't think it works too well anymore, sadly, but you can move the leg and it would move its neck up and down when it used to work. This Jurassic Park figure is the Allosaurus figure, and this one has some body parts that you can take off to reveal the battle damage underneath. You can also remove part of its chest and even the rib cage underneath, and also a part of its tail. That's pretty cool. I don't think many of the new Jurassic World figures have this much battle damage that you can reveal. Here is the Parasaurolophus figure. This is JP19, and it has a single button on its back for the running action. I've got another Jurassic Park egg here, so let's see what dinosaur is inside. Alright, it is the baby Triceratops figure, and it is JP57. Look at those green marbled eyes. Why don't we go ahead and check out this other new collector's item too. This is the Hammond Collection Dr. Alan Grant and Velociraptor pack. Let's go ahead and take this off, and there they are. Here is Dr. Alan Grant. He's got the plaid shirt, and you can see that there is a camera pack in there, as well as a green backpack. So he can wear the green backpack, and inside the camera case are the 2 hidden Velociraptor eggs. If you remember that from Jurassic Park 3. And let's check out the Velociraptor figure from the pack. Like all the Hammond Collection figures, it is super adjustable, so you can bend all of its limbs, and it has some pretty cool coloring with the white and the brown striping all over its body. Here is the Velociraptor figure. This is JP53. This dinosaur is a pretty exotic looking one. It's got these spikes all over its head and on its back, as well as these wing-like things on its arms. This is a hybrid dinosaur, so it's a Velociraptor mixed with something else that I actually don't know. Here is the Compsognathus dinosaur. This is a super bright and wildly colored dinosaur. It's got these spines running along its back, kind of like a Stegosaurus, but it stands on 2 legs, and it's got this crazy thing that it shoots out of its mouth. I don't know if that's its tongue or what that is. And another crazy colored dinosaur from Jurassic Park is the Amargospinus. It's got the bright red all over its body. This is JP58, and when you move its leg, you can actually activate its spines on its back, on its neck, and you can open its mouth too. Over here, I've got 2 twin Baryonyx figures. They've got slightly different coloring, but they are identical in size and shape. This first one has the yellow coloring with the dark brown spots, and this second one is dark brown all over and has some bright orange stripes on its back. Here I've got another hybrid crazy looking dinosaur. This is JP48, and I actually can't remember what the specific species of this figure is, but boy is it bright and crazy looking. Here is a Dilophosaurus figure without the frills. This is JP02, so this one is a really early figure, and it's quite small, but it still has the real feel skin and some pretty interesting coloring. And up next are a few classic Velociraptor figures. This first one is the older figure. It is JP06, and it has the dark red orange coloring and a jaw-chomping action. And this second figure is JP10. It does not have the jaw-chomping action, and it has some totally different coloring. And here I've got a juvenile T-Rex figure from Jurassic Park. This is JP42, and this baby T-Rex actually features a broken leg. So you can see right there that it is actually a bendable limb, so this originally came with a bandage or something like that you put over the leg. And as an extra bonus, I've got some really old Jurassic World figures. These are some of the first figures that came out for the new Jurassic World series. This first one is a brown Velociraptor. Velociraptor with the gray striping on top. Here's a light tan Velociraptor. This one actually has a battle damage button on its side. I guess it doesn't work anymore, sadly. And on this figure, you can use the tail to move the arms back and forth as if it's running. There's also this super old Ceratosaurus figure. It also has the battle damage button on its side. Plus, of course, when you move the tail, you can chomp its jaw. I've got two more super brightly colored dinosaurs. This first one is an Allosaurus figure with the bright yellow and bright red. It's got a little bit of battle damage on its side, and you can use the tail to move the head around and open and close its mouth. And finally is a Triceratops Stegosaurus hybrid. You can see those golden spines running along its back from the Stegosaurus, and of course, you've got these Triceratops horns in the front, plus a whole lot more on this figure. I just bought some Jurassic Park sets off of eBay. The first one is the Alan Grant with double-barreled bola launcher from the Jurassic Park new series 2. Let's check this out. So there's Dr. Alan Grant. We've got a variety of tools here as well as a little dinosaur. And way up at the top here, you can see that it's some type of claw contraption or something used for trapping dinosaurs, it looks like. Now, I'm not going to open this up because this is a collectible and I want to keep it in this condition since it's unopened right now. But I still have another figure from eBay that I just bought that we're going to check out as well. This is the Compsognathus, or at least I think that's how you pronounce it, codenamed Lasher from Jurassic Park Chaos Effect series. And this dinosaur is super colorful. It's got some light blue-green over its body with the black. It's got some yellow. It's got some orange. It's got blue right on its nose. So this will be super cool to add to my collection too. And as you can see, it is a combination dinosaur of a Compsognathus, a Stegosaurus, and an African tree frog. That is pretty wild. As you'll notice with basically all of these figures are discontinued, so you won't be able to find them new anywhere. You might be able to find them on eBay or something like that. But this first one is a Jurassic Park Allosaurus. And this figure actually has multiple pieces of battle damage that you can completely take off. And this front battle damage actually has multiple layers. You can take off the ribs to see the stomach underneath, and then you can just cover it back up with the skin, just like that. You can also remove the thigh on this dinosaur, see the flesh underneath, as well as on the tail. You can rip off a piece of the tail and see the bone and flesh underneath too. Back here, we've got one of the original Tyrannosaurus Rexes from Jurassic Park. This figure has some pretty unique coloring over its body. It's got the clay red with the black spots and stripes. It's got the lighter underbelly. It originally had sound effects, and its whole body is a soft rubber, which is a common theme with the older figures. Right here, we've got a T-Rex from Jurassic Park: The Lost World. This is the Thrasher Tyrannosaurus Rex, and it also has a soft rubber body aside from the arms and the legs. And with this T-Rex, you can actually wiggle the tail to control the face and the neck. Move it back and forth. Alright, I know you've been keeping your eye on these huge T-Rexes on the side. This super colossal T-Rex is one of a kind, and that is because it is actually custom colored. It's got a light tan body all around. It's got some interesting shadowing and detail all over. It's also got some super dark red eyes and some interestingly colored teeth too. Those are darker teeth than what's normal. So while you may be able to get a super colossal T-Rex, you will not be able to buy one that is this color. Next up for the one-of-a-kind super colossal dinosaurs is this T-Rex. And this has some of the craziest custom coloring out of any figures that I've seen. It looks like a fire T-Rex. Got the bright red over its belly and sides. It's got the glowing orange right next to the black, and then the black top. This is a super cool one-of-a-kind T-Rex. And for our final one-of-a-kind, custom-colored, super colossal dinosaurs is this Velociraptor. This, I think, has some of the best custom coloring out of any figure that I have. It is so detailed and so well done. It's got the black body with these brown stripes, and there's even these little gold specks along its brown stripes as well. My favorite part though are the eyes. These are incredibly detailed. It's like a gold eye, but then it's got red towards the center and then the black pupil. You will not be able to find another super colossal Velociraptor with this coloring anywhere. Here we've got a Jurassic Park Stegosaurus with battle damage right on the shoulder. This figure has a somewhat soft rubber body. The tail is especially rubbery, so you can swing that back and forth with those spikes at the end. And it has a very natural green and brown and light tan coloring all over its body, so it really blends into the jungle. This giant T-Rex, I believe, is the Jurassic Park Lost World Bull Tyrannosaurus Rex. This T-Rex has some pretty unique coloring with this green-blue color on the sides. It's got some light brown on its legs as well as along the top of its body. It's got some marble eyes that are green. And I don't have the piece anymore, unfortunately, but originally it was able to swallow, I think, a cage that had a man inside. So this thing could actually swallow humans or dinosaurs or whatever you want, and you can release it from the stomach right in there. Next up of my rarest figures is this Jurassic Park Lost World Pteranodon that was nicknamed the Steel Beak. This figure's pretty old and fragile now, but it's one of the few figures that has a fabric wing on it, as well as spring-loaded joints for the wings, so it can swing forward and it swings back, just like that. Next up is the Jurassic Park Lost World Parasaurolophus. This figure's in pretty good condition for how old it is. It's got the light tan body with the darker brown stripes along the top, and this figure actually has an action button on its back used for running. Here we've got the original Jurassic Park Triceratops, and this figure has some huge battle damage on its side. You can see some flesh and some bone in it as well. This figure also has the soft rubbery body like many of the super old figures, and it has an action that when you squeeze its stomach, it swings its head upward. Here is a dinosaur figure that, although it's more recent, it's still pretty hard to find and pretty rare. This is an extreme chomping Spinosaurus from Jurassic World. This figure has the dark brown body with the light underbelly and the red spine and face. And of course, it comes with the button at the top of its head for the chomping. Right here is another one of the original Jurassic Park Tyrannosaurus Rexes. This is a smaller figure. It probably only stands about 9 or 10 inches tall. It's got some battle damage on the side, and it has the soft rubbery body all throughout aside from its arms and its legs. This super bright dinosaur, I believe, is from Jurassic Park The Lost World and is actually a Chaos Effect Ankylorannodon. This figure has some super bright colors, with bright green and the bright purple, plus it's got a super bright orange eye as well. And there's actually a hidden action button on its back used to move its tail. Over here is another more recent figure from Jurassic World, but is still pretty rare and pretty hard to find. This is the hybrid Indominus Rex. It's got the bright red over its body, it's got some gold, and the classic gray color for the Indominus Rex. Plus it has a few action buttons, the first that you press down to stick out its spines, and the second to pull down the arm, and it roars. Check this one out. Here is another discontinued Jurassic World figure. This figure is fairly rare and is actually a hybrid Tyrannosaurus Rex. Check out these spines that pop out on the top of its head and on its back. Plus, another unique feature about this Tyrannosaurus Rex is this unique coloring right along the side of its body. And the action button that springs out the spines also activates the jaw. This is another Chaos Effect dinosaur from Jurassic Park. This is the Velociraptor, and this dinosaur has some really unique features. What stands out the most to me are these wings right on the Velociraptor's arms. That's super interesting. And it's got these spikes right along the top of its back and its head as well. And this Velociraptor has an action that when you pull the leg, it swings its arms up and down and its head moves as well. Next up, we've got another figure from Jurassic World. This is a hybrid special edition Ankylosaurus. And the most special part about this figure is that it actually has part of its shell that you can take off to reveal the normal shell underneath. This removable shell is super bright and reflective. It's got some bright green and purple in the spikes as well. And you can just plop it right back on. Next up in my rare figures, we've got the Jurassic Park Amargospinus. I think this figure looks somewhat similar to the unopened figure that we saw at the very beginning of this video. It's got the long neck, it's got the spines all over, and it's got a few action buttons actually that when you move the leg, it actually sticks up its spines on its back, on its neck, and it opens its jaws too. Next up is the Jurassic Park Lost World Chasmosaurus. This figure looks similar to a Triceratops. It's got many of the same features. It's got the horns in the front. And this figure also has an action that when you pull its leg, it moves its head up and down. This is another Jurassic World hybrid figure. This, I believe, is a hybrid between a Stegosaurus and a Triceratops. But it's also got some super bright and unique coloring with the bright blue on its side, the dark blue on its legs, and the gold right along the top and its horns too. Here is another Jurassic World hybrid figure. This is a hybrid between a Tyrannosaurus Rex and a Dilophosaurus. And once again, it's also got some super bright coloring with the bright orange on its sides. It's got some gold along the top too. This is a Jurassic Park Spinosaurus. And let me tell you, I think it looks a lot different than the Spinosauruses that Jurassic World is releasing now. But it's still got the huge spine along its back, of course, and it has some pretty bright coloring. It's got the bright green along its body with the gray as well. Next up is a fairly large figure from Jurassic Park. This is a Utah Raptor. It's got the orange body with the black detailing along the top and the lighter underbelly. And a nice detail on this figure is that you can actually move the claw up and down on its feet. Over here, we've got a few Jurassic Park Baryonyx figures. These are quite a bit different than the new Jurassic World Baryonyxes that are being released now. Their bodies are a lot more thin. They've got shorter legs, and it looks like they've got longer necks too. Next up, we've got two Velociraptors from Jurassic Park with different features. This first one is a lot smaller, and you can move the arms and the legs, but there's no action button. But on this second Velociraptor figure, there's an action button that when you move the leg, you can hear a sound effect. It's really quiet, so you probably can't hear it on the camera. But its head also used to move up and down as well. Here are some other interesting dinosaurs from Jurassic World. This is a Dilophosaurus with battle damage on the side, and it is super brightly colored. We've also got a smaller Spinosaurus with battle damage on the side that you can control by moving the tail around too. And for the last two dinosaurs of my rare collection, first we've got a Jurassic Park baby T-Rex with a broken leg feature. And we've also got this, I think it might be a Baryonyx, it might be an Allosaurus, it's kind of hard to tell, but it's from Jurassic World, and it's got the battle damage on the side, and the tail controls the head too. The first and biggest of this collection is this Jurassic Park T-Rex. I believe this is a bull T-Rex, as it was called. It is the JP28. It has very unique coloring. I don't have another T-Rex that has this type of coloring on it. It's really cool. Next up from Jurassic Park, we've got the really bright and colorful Compsognathus. This is a super crazy looking dinosaur, plus it's got a unique feature that when you press on this orange thing, it sticks this, I think it's its tongue out of its mouth. That is super crazy looking, and then you can retract it just like that. Next, also from Jurassic Park, is another giant T-Rex figure with the rubber body and the plastic legs and arms. This figure's getting really old, so you can see the paint starting to wear off, plus it's made of rubber, so it just doesn't hold up the time as well. But it still looks really cool, and you can use the tail to control the head. Here's another big dinosaur, but this one is a vintage Jurassic World figure. So it's a bit different. It's got a mostly plastic body, but it has a rubber neck and head, and you can use the arm to open and close the jaw. Really cool sound effects. The next vintage figure is this giant Utah Raptor figure from Jurassic Park. Definitely a lot bigger than a lot of my other Raptor figures, and it has some special features too. When you press down underneath its tail, it dips its head down in a chomping action. This figure is a vintage Jurassic World figure, and it's actually a pretty special one because it is a hybrid dinosaur. It looks like a T-Rex, but then you can press this button on its back to open up the spines and reveal them. That's really cool. Right over here is a vintage Jurassic Park Allosaurus figure. This figure is actually a bit smaller than a lot of my other Jurassic World Allosaurus figures, but the cool part about this figure is it has battle damage that you can take off completely. And you can even do it on its leg and its tail too. This is quite a bit different from the new Allosauruses that Jurassic World is releasing now. Right down here, we've got a huge Triceratops figure. This is from Jurassic Park. It's got the battle damage on the side. I think there used to be a piece that fit in there, but I don't have it anymore, sadly. But it's got the camouflage green coloring all over its body, and you can squeeze the stomach to lift up the head. Here is a vintage Jurassic World Ankylosaurus figure. I believe the figure actually has an additional shell. Here we go. You can put it right on top of the dinosaur for additional armor. This is a special edition Ankylosaurus figure. It's really cool. Up next is another old Jurassic Park figure. I believe this one is a adolescent T-Rex. It looks quite a bit younger than a lot of the other big T-Rexes I have, so I think it's a younger version of a T-Rex. But its body's all rubber aside from its legs and its arms, and it does not have any special features, sadly. Here's another really unique looking dinosaur from Jurassic Park. This is the Velociraptor. It's got a body similar to a Velociraptor, but it's got these feathered winged-like things on its arms as well as on its back. And check out that super long snout with all those teeth. And you can actually move its arms and its head by moving its leg back and forth. Right over here is a smaller figure. This is a Jurassic World Pachycephalosaurus figure. It's got the black striping on the top and the yellow body and a little bit of body damage on the side. But for how old this figure is, it still has a pretty cool function where you can wiggle its head, you can move its head up and down in that head-butting action too. Here's another T-Rex figure from Jurassic World. This one is custom colored though. It's got the red and the black coloring with the green underbelly. This figure is actually identical to the hybrid T-Rex with the spikes coming out of its back that we saw earlier. Here's another old Jurassic World figure. This is another Ankylosaurus, but this is the normal version. So we saw that super bright blue and green Ankylosaurus. This is the normal version, which is brown and does not have the additional shell covering on top. All right, I've also got a few vintage human figures in here too from Jurassic Park. I believe that this is the parachute edition of Dr. Ian Malcolm. Looks like he's got the full harnessing system on for jumping out of a plane in a parachute. Next up, we got another old Indominus Rex figure. This is a little tiny one. I believe this one was a Bite and Thrashers. It was called something like that. But you can use its tail to move its head around and open and close its jaw. Over here is another old Jurassic World figure. This is a Ceratosaurus figure. And while the coloring is the same as many of the new ones that Mattel is releasing, the design of the whole body, and especially its face, is very different compared to what's coming out nowadays. Plus, this figure has a button on its side that'll activate sound effects and light up as well. But since it's so old, it no longer works anymore, sadly. From Jurassic Park, we've got a saber-toothed looking kind of creature. I don't remember the name of this figure though, but check out those teeth on the very front of its mouth. That's pretty scary. Looks a lot like a saber-tooth. Here's another human character from Jurassic Park. I actually don't remember the name of this character, but comment down below if you recognize who it is. Come on. Way down here, we've got a baby Triceratops figure from Jurassic Park. This figure actually came in a shell that you opened up to reveal this dinosaur. And the coolest part is that this figure has marble eyes. You don't see that in a lot of new figures nowadays. Speaking of Triceratops, I've got a wild looking one from Jurassic World. This is a hybrid Triceratops, I believe, with a Stegosaurus. It's got gold and some bright blue all over its body, and you can use the tail to move the head around too. Check out all those horns along its head too. That is amazing, and a way lot more than normal Triceratops figures. Next up, we've got another raptor figure, but this one is a Velociraptor from Jurassic World. With this figure, you can move its arms and its legs up and down, but you can't open and close its mouth or move its tail. So Jurassic World figures have really come a long way since they first started releasing these. This is a pretty basic figure. Here's another figure that looks nothing like the new figures that they're releasing for this species. This is a Spinosaurus figure. It's got the green and gray and looks absolutely different from the new Spinosauruses that Mattel is releasing nowadays. This bright figure from Jurassic World, I believe, is an Allosaurus figure, and it's pretty basic, but like that smaller Indominus Rex figure that we saw earlier, you can use its tail to open and close its mouth, and even have it look around too. From Jurassic Park, here is another Triceratops figure, but this one is a lot smaller and might be a baby Triceratops. Plus, when you wiggle the leg on this figure, you can move its head up and down too. And unlike many of the other Jurassic Park figures, this figure is all hard plastic. Next, from Jurassic World is another old Indominus Rex figure, but this figure has the coolest battle damage feature of them all. You can actually open and close the door to reveal the battle damage inside. And that's not all. This figure can open and close its mouth using the tail as well. Up next from Jurassic Park is a vintage T-Rex figure, I believe a baby T-Rex, with a broken leg feature. This is another crazy looking dinosaur from Jurassic Park. This is an Amargospinus. You don't see that many dinosaur figures with this type of coloring nowadays. And it's got some pretty cool features. You can pull the leg and all the spines on its back and its neck, and even its mouth opens up too. Next up is a giant Jurassic World Dilophosaurus figure. This one even has the battle damage on the side that you can press for sound effects, but it doesn't work anymore sadly. And it has these giant frills in the front too, which is pretty neat. Next, we've got another Jurassic Park human figure, and I can't remember the name of this figure either, so let me know in the comments if you recognize who this is.
Bingo!
And here we've got a tiny little Jurassic World T-Rex figure with the green coloring and the tail that controls the neck and the head. The first that we're gonna unbox is one that I actually just bought on eBay. This is a Spinosaurus JP39. This looks a lot different from the new Jurassic World Spinosauruses for sure. You can see it's got a green and gray body. It's still got the big old spine, but the head shape is different. And it's quite a bit smaller, but it does have some actions too. You can see you can pull down on the arm for the chomping. You can see some wear and tear throughout the body, but I got it for a pretty good price, so. This T-Rex is an original 1993 Jurassic Park Tyrannosaurus Rex made by Kenner. It's got an all soft body. It's a soft rubber. It's got a green underbelly and a red side with spots. Its legs, though, are made of hard plastic, and then it transitions up to the soft rubber right up here. And with this figure, when you squeeze the stomach, it has a roaring function. It used to have sound effects, and it doesn't work too well anymore, but it's a pretty old figure, so what can you expect? Next up, we've got the JP53 Chaos Effect Velociraptor from Jurassic Park. This is a pretty interesting looking dinosaur. They definitely aren't making any figures that look quite like this anymore. See, it's got these spikes all over its body. It's got these wing-like things and a super long tail with those spikes at the end as well. And you can see that it actually is spring-loaded so that when you move the legs, its neck can move up and down and its arms go up and down too. Next up, we've got a smaller figure. This is the Chasmosaurus, JP21. This figure is in decent condition. You can see it's got the tan side, brown underbelly, and the gray top. Plus, it has an action with its leg that when you pull it, it goes into a roaring position. And the sound effects still work, actually. Next up is the Jurassic Park Lost World Tyrannosaurus Rex from 1997. This is the JP28 figure. This once again has the rubber body. It has some pretty cool coloring with yellow, black, and a green-blue color, and a light underbelly. And you can see that it actually has the throat tunnel all the way down to its stomach, just like the super colossal figures I have now, but a bit smaller. This figure back here, I believe, is another Lost World Tyrannosaurus from 1997. You can see it's colored way differently. I believe this one was custom colored at some point, but it's got the hard front arms that you can swivel, plastic legs, and then the rest of the body is rubber. And this also has the throat tunnel down to its stomach too. Now, obviously, this isn't a dinosaur, but this is still from Jurassic Park. This is the Lost World Humvee capture vehicle. See that it's got these things that come down on the side, as well as these that go up top. I believe these are for humans to sit inside so that they can see way higher when they're riding way high up on the car. Next up is the 1997 Jurassic Park Lost World Thrasher Tyrannosaurus Rex. This T-Rex has hard plastic legs. The entire leg is made of hard plastic on both sides, as are the arms, but the rest of the body is that soft rubber again. And with this figure, when you move the tail around, it actually swings its head back and forth. Way over here on the edge, we've got a super colossal T-Rex. Now, I actually don't know how old this figure is, but it looks quite a bit different than all the other super colossal T-Rexes that I have. Might have been custom painted, but let's check it out. You can see the battle damage on the side. Plus, it comes with some sound effects when you open the mouth. That's pretty awesome. And just like all the rest of my super colossal figures, it is pretty adjustable. You can move the tail, the legs, the arm, and you can open up its mouth really big. Up next, we've got a Jurassic Park puppet. This thing is pretty old, and I believe it is a Velociraptor. It's made entirely out of rubber, so the whole thing is pretty soft. This is the Jurassic Park Lost World Stegosaurus, JP24. You can see that I don't have the battle damage cover anymore. I'm not sure where that went. But this figure has a harder plastic body, and the tail is a softer rubber that swings back and forth. Here is the classic Triceratops from Jurassic Park. This is JP08. See, it's got the battle damage on the side, and just like many of the other figures, it's got a soft rubbery body and a function when you squeeze the stomach, the head goes up and down. Next up is the JP06 Battle Damage Tyrannosaurus figure. This figure, once again, has a soft rubbery body throughout most, except for the feet are hard plastic and the arms. Most of its body is a light tan color with that darker striping on top, and it's got a lighter underbelly. And let's check out that battle damage on the side too. You can see the bones and a little bit of underneath the bones too. Next up is the Jurassic Park 3 sound activated stalking raptor. Now the motor doesn't work in this figure, but originally you turn it on and it would be able to walk forwards slowly and stealthily. This figure is hard plastic all over. It's got the light underbelly, the dark brown sides, and a purple color right along the top. This is the Lost World Pteranodon, JP22. This figure is really old, and it's a little worn down, as you can see. It's got the blue and gold body. Its wings are actually of fabric, and there's a button on the top of its body used for flapping its wings. Here's another flying dinosaur. This is JP48. This, I believe, is an Ankyloranodon. It's got some bright green on the underside and purple on the top. Check out those claws. And there's actually a button on its back that you press, and it curls its tail inward. And all in all, this is probably over a foot long from wingtip to wingtip. Next up, we've got JP63. This is the Jurassic Park Baryonyx. I've actually got another very similar Baryonyx right here. And both of them have an action with the leg. When you move the leg, it moves its head back and forth. Next up is the JP23 Pachycephalosaurus with a ramming head. Now it's slightly broken because when I press the button, the head will fly off, but that's a pretty cool spring-loaded head ramming action. Here we've got the JP19 Lost World Parasaurolophus. This dinosaur has some pretty cool coloring with the striping down its back and the red right around its head and neck. And this dinosaur also has an action button. You press on its back and it runs. This is the JP18 Jurassic Park Velociraptor. This dinosaur has some pretty unique patterns over its body. It's got the striping, but it's also got these dots and on its arms and its neck as well. And it's really quiet because it's an old figure, but it actually does have sound effects. This figure is the Jurassic Park 1994 Utah Raptor. Most of its body is that soft rubber, aside from its legs, which are hard plastic, and its arms. And on this dinosaur, the legs are spring-loaded, so that when you press beneath its tail, it'll dip down for a chomp. This is JP58. This is an Amargospinus. This has some pretty cool coloring with the black, tan, and red all over its body, and it has an action with its leg that when you pull it, these spines stand up on its back, on its neck, and it opens its jaw too. This figure is the JP44 Lost World Triceratops. This is a smaller figure. It's got that dark green coloring, and this figure also has an action. When you move the leg, it lifts his head up for a roar. Next up, we've got the JP02 Dilophosaurus. This is a pretty small figure, and you can only move the legs on this one. But this is a classic Jurassic Park figurine. Next up is JP47. This is an Allosaurus, and it actually has battle damage that you can take on and off. Look at those huge pieces that you can take off to see what's underneath. You can take it off the leg as well, see the bone underneath. And you can even remove parts of its tail too. That is super cool. Here we've got JP42. I believe this is a baby T-Rex. It's actually got a broken leg on its right side. It's got that dark coloring on the top and the light brown and tan on the bottom too. I've got some identical JP06 Velociraptor figures. They've got the brown sides, the dark top, and the light underbelly. This is JP12. I believe it is called a Lycinops, and it looks kind of like a saber-toothed tiger. Next up, the JP10 Velociraptor. This has a bright red top and a yellow side and a white underbelly, and when you move its legs, it actually opens up its arms. Plus, I've even got some classic figurines. I've got 2 of the Lost World Ian Malcolm glider action figures. I've got the 1997 Ian Malcolm figure.
Come on!
And I've got the Alan Grant figurine as well.
Ha-ha!
I think I've got a few more human figurines in here. This first one is the Robert Muldoon figurine.
Oh boy!
This second one, I believe, is Harpoon Harrison.
Awesome!
And I believe this one is the Jurassic Park Lost World Nick Van Owen.
Gotcha!
And last but not least, we've got a few teeny tiny figures in here. Can you guess what type of dinosaurs these are? Let me know in the comments below.
Oh boy! Ha-ha! Awesome!
First up, we've got this huge Indominus Rex hybrid figure. While most Indominus Rex figures are painted just gray, this one has some crazy red, some gold on the underbelly and arms and legs, and it has a few unique action buttons too. The first is a chomping action, and second is a button that reveals even more spikes on its back. Next up, we've got another Indominus Rex figure. This one is normal colored, but it's pretty old. It's got a rubberized head and neck, and the rest of its body is a hard plastic. And when you pull down on the arms, it opens and closes its mouth. This next rare figure is a Tyrannosaurus Rex. It also has some rubberized parts of its body as well, like the tail and the neck. This figure also has some stomp sound effects. And of course, it's got a roar sound effect and a chomp action. In the back here, we've got another T-Rex figure. This one looks quite a bit different. It's got some green and some very unique and kind of strange looking details on its body. It's a bit smaller than the T-Rex that we just saw, but it has one real cool special effect. Press the button here, and it springs up some spikes on its back and on the top of its head too. This next T-Rex right here is actually identical to the other one, except that it does not have the spikes coming out of its back. And I believe this one was actually custom colored too, so you won't find this one anywhere else. This is a super brightly colored dinosaur. This is a classic Dilophosaurus. It's got bright neon coloring all over its body. It's got a button on its side for lighting up and sound effects, although it doesn't work anymore. And you can use the tail to move the head up and down too. Here's a super brightly colored Velociraptor figure. It's got the green with the red stripes all over its body. This one also has a button for sound effects and lighting up, although it doesn't work anymore. And not only that, but it also has a tail that you can press down on to open and close its mouth. Here's a pretty unique looking dinosaur. This is an Amargosaurus. It stands on all four legs and it has two action buttons. One moves its head up and down, and the other swings its tail. Check out those two huge spines running down its back and its neck. Next up, we've got an Edmontosaurus figure. This one's a bit more recent, but it can be pretty hard to find. The brightest coloring is on the top of its head. It's got some blue and some yellow, and you can hear the sound effects, and there's a tail that moves its head around too. Check it out, we've got another Indominus Rex figure. This one's quite a bit smaller than the ones that we saw earlier, although it's got some really cool battle damage that you can slide open and closed. Plus, on this figure, you can move the tail up and down, and it has a chomping action. Here's another super brightly colored dinosaur. This is a hybrid Stegosaurus and Triceratops. Check out all that super cool gold coloring all over its body, and it's even got some battle damage right on the side. And this figure has one action. When you press down on the tail, it pushes its head forward. Here is a winged dinosaur. I'm not sure what type it is. It's definitely not a pteranodon or anything like that. It's got a bright blue underbelly. It's got the red on the top. It's got an action button right on its back. And you can flap the wings by moving the back feet. Up next is a miniature Mosasaurus figure. This small figure has some battle damage that you can open and close right on the side. And although it doesn't work anymore, you used to be able to lift the tail up to open and close the mouth. Here is the Concavinator figure. This dinosaur has some bright coloring along its back right next to the spike and some purple all over its face. Plus it has two action buttons, one to activate the jaw and the other to activate the tail. Right here is a special edition Ankylosaurus figure. This figure is pretty special because you can actually remove part of the shell on top of its body as well as on its tail. And underneath you can see that there's still a super hard shell for this dinosaur. And with this figure, when you move this leg back and forth, it swings its tail and it moves its head back and forth. Right here we've got a classic looking Ceratosaurus figure with a button for battle damage on the side. This figure is a bit smaller than many of my other Ceratosaurus figures, but you can still use the tail to open and close the mouth. Up next, we've got a reflective Parasaurolophus figure. Check out that super shiny pink coloring along its back and some on its leg as well. And this figure has an action where you can move the tail to move the head around. Plus, it has sound effects too. I've got another Velociraptor figure here. This one isn't as bright as the last one we saw, but it's still got the battle damage button right on the side that used to light up and have sound effects. Plus on this figure, you can move the tail up and down to move the arms. I've got one more Dilophosaurus figure in this super rare collection. This one is identical to the one we saw earlier, except that it does not have the super bright neon coloring. It's got the huge frills in the front, there's the battle damage button on the side, and you can use the tail to dip the head up and down too. This next dinosaur, I believe, is called a Pachycephalosaurus. It's yellow with black striping along the top. It's got a tiny bit of battle damage on the side, and it's got an action that when you press down on the tail, it does a headbutting action for its super hard shell on its head. Next up, we've got a super small Spinosaurus figure with super bright coloring. It's blue on the side, it's like a reflective gold on the underbelly, and bright red along the spine. It's also got the battle damage on the side, and you can use this figure's tail to move its head around. Next up is a small Allosaurus figure. Once again, really brightly colored. It's got tan, yellow, and red on its body. It's got a little bit of battle damage on its side, just like the other figures, and the tail that controls the mouth and the head. And finally, we've got 3 Tyrannosaurus Rex figures. This middle one is for sure the rarest one. It is a super bright orange color. It's got some gold coloring along the top. And this T-Rex is actually a hybrid with a Dilophosaurus. You can tell because of those huge frills on the front right there. And these other two are a little bit more normal looking. They both got the battle damage right on the side. This first one is a light green color, and this one is a light brown color. And they both have the tail that controls the mouth when you move it around. Welcome to the Amazing Dinosaurs channel. Today we are checking out a bunch of dinosaur figures that were released as part of the Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom toy line. I've got tons of these dinosaurs, so let's dig in. First up, we've got some new ones that I just bought that we're gonna check out first. The first one is the Indoraptor. So this Indoraptor figure is probably medium sized, not as big as most of the T-Rex figures. It's got the all black body with the gold striping right along the side, just like the movies. And this figure is super posable. You can move basically every joint in its body as you could in real life. You can open the jaw, the neck, the arms, the legs, the tail. It's got 2 joints. It's got some quills on its back and on the top of its head too. And of course, it's got those red eyes. Next up, we've got the Dino DNA Lab Kit with the Dimorphodon. Let's open it up and check it out. All right, here we go. So here is the Dimorphodon. It's gray in color, and then it's got that maroon purplish coloring on the bottom of its wings. And it's pretty adjustable. And we've got the Dino DNA Kit. Comes with the slime too. Let's go ahead and put this in. All right, here's the slime, and it goes into the canister. Oops, didn't quite fit. And then you stick this dinosaur skull into the slime. And there you go. It is now on display. Plus, you can actually open up the canister to let the goo slide out of the side. That's pretty cool. And next up, we've got another Dino DNA Lab Kit. This is the Velociraptor pack, so let's open it up and check it out. Here is the Velociraptor. It looks like it is in a sneaking pose, crawling along the ground. It's got a light green color, and it's pretty posable with all its limbs and jaw. And of course, you've got the DNA kit right here. Let's put that slime in. And finally, let's put the skull in. Looks like this kit comes with the same skull. And there we go. Exact same as the other one. It's got the opening on the side to let out the goo. And you can close it back up and put it on display. Next up, we've got the Legacy Collection Extreme Chomping Spinosaurus. This has the dark green body and the iconic red along the spine and the face too. And of course, it's got that chomping action. This is the Thrash and Throw T-Rex. This dinosaur can be controlled by moving its tail all around to control its neck, its head, and its jaw. Right over here, we've got the giant Mosasaurus figure. They've actually come out with a new one since then that has different coloring. But this is the original one for Fallen Kingdom. This one has a lighter blue coloring on the side and the top compared to the newer one, and the white underbelly. And on this figure, the tail actually doesn't move. That's only with the newer Mosasaurus figures. Here we've got the basic figure of the Indoraptor. It has the same awesome coloring as the one we opened up earlier, but the limbs cannot move around as much. As you can see, you can only move them somewhat. Can't move the elbows, you can't move the knees. It's kind of stuck in this crawling, sneaking pose. This is the Action Attack Suchomimus. It's got a bright blue color on the bottom and the sides, and the yellow detailing on the top. And it's got one action button on its back for chomping. Next up is the Roarivore Allosaurus. It's got the gray body with yellow detailing on top, and you can move the arms and the legs, and there's an action button on its back for chomping the jaw. This is the Roarivore Ceratosaurus. It has a light yellow body with the black and red detailing on the top, and the iconic horn right there on its nose. Plus, it's got an action button on its back to chomp the jaw. Right here, we've got a basic figure of the Dilophosaurus. It's got the soft green body with the red frills. And you can open and close the frills and move the limbs a little bit, but they're not very adjustable. This is another basic figure from Jurassic World. This is a Velociraptor with the orange body and the brown top. And just like the Dilophosaurus, the limbs are slightly adjustable, but it's pretty basic. Way down here, we've got an extreme chompin' T-Rex. This is part of the Legacy collection, I believe, and it has the orange body with the light underbelly. It's got the button on the top of its head for chomping. Starting with the biggest figures, I've got a super colossal T-Rex figure right here in the original orange painting. You see it's got yellow eyes, and over on the left side here, I've got the custom painted version. This is now a bright red T-Rex with yellow striping and black along the top. Next, I've also got the super colossal Velociraptor blue figure with the green coloring and the blue stripe down the side. And this figure looks pretty similar to the movie. And if we move over to the left side here, this is the custom repainted version, now painted to look like an Indoraptor. You can see it's got the black body with now the gold stripe running down its side. For the next original figure, we've got the mighty Indominus Rex figure from Camp Cretaceous. It has an action feature on its tail that moves its jaw open and closed, as well as a button on its back for slashing its claws. We're gonna put this original figure on the right side with the other originals, and we're gonna grab the custom painted version of that Indominus Rex right here. This repainted figure is now purple and blue. It's got some orange stripes and really looks like a very crazy looking dinosaur. Very different compared to the original version. So we're gonna put that over here on the left side with the repainted super colossal figures. And I've actually got another custom colored Indominus Rex figure right here. This figure I bought quite recently and it is in the camo green coloring. And my favorite part is that it has a bunch of blood coloring in its mouth. So we're gonna put this on the custom repainted side to face off with the original versions. Next is the Camp Cretaceous Spinosaurus figure. This figure is the original version, comes in the brown with the darker brown and the red spine and face. And it has an action button on its head to open and close the jaw. Now let's put this on the original side and let's check out the repainted version right here. Now this Spinosaurus is also brown colored for the most part, like the original version over there, but its red is a whole lot darker and it has this blue along its spine, as well as a lot more detailing and different shades of brown all over its body. So we're gonna put this Spinosaurus on the custom repainted side. Next up is this huge T-Rex figure that I believe is from the Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom movie. It has a really cool chomping action when you press its tail upwards, as well as a roaring action as well. Plus you can move its torso around by moving the tail. So we're gonna put this one on the original side right over here. And now we're gonna check out the custom repainted version. It is now in a camouflage coloring, which is one of my favorite colorings for these dinosaur figures. And of course this figure too has the really cool chomping action as well as the roaring action. Now let's go ahead and put this dinosaur on the custom repainted side. The next dinosaur is this massive Terran T-Rex figure. This is the original version and it has the brown on the sides with the darker brown on top and 2 action buttons on its back. One for that massive tearing action and the other button for a huge tail swinging action. Now let's put this T-Rex over here on the original side and let's check out the custom repainted version. And here it is. It still has that brown coloring, although it's a lot darker, but the coolest part of this custom repainting is that they colored in the battle damage slashes on its legs and on its torso, and overall I think looks a whole lot more realistic. And don't forget, it has that same awesome Terran action too. And now we're gonna put this over here on the custom colored side. The next dinosaur in this Versus collection is the Stomp and Escape T-Rex. This originally colored version is brown, it has some gray detailing along the top, and it has a single action button on its back for a massive roaring action. Alright, now let's put this over here on the original side. And now let's check out the repainted version. And this one I actually repainted myself. And I think I made it look quite a bit different. It's now a camo green color. You can see the green on its side and it fades to a brown on the top. It still has the yellow eyes like the original version, although you notice that the pupils on this one are circle, and I decided to go with the long and narrow pupils. And of course it has that awesome huge roaring action as well. All right, and this one goes right over here on the custom repaint side. The next dinosaur is this Jurassic World Dominion Tyrannosaurus Rex figure with the battle damage on the side that you can turn on and off. And it comes in a darker brown, almost an orange color compared to many of these other T-Rexes. So we're gonna put this on the original side right over here. And here is the custom repainted version of that Jurassic World Dominion dinosaur, now in a camouflage color. You can see it's got tan striping along the top, some bright green on the sides, and it's still got that battle damage on the side that you can turn on and off. So let's go ahead and put this on the custom repainted side. Next is another classic brown T-Rex with a little bit of darker brown coloring on the top. This is the original coloring, and it has a button at the top of its head for the chomping and roaring. So let's put this on the original side right here. And here is the custom repainted version. Totally different looking. Look at that bright red with that glowing yellow along the black. Pretty similar actually to the super colossal version that I have up here. And of course this one too has the jaw chopping action. And look, even the inside of its mouth is like a dark black red color. So let's set this one on the custom colored side to face off with its original version right there. Next up is an older T-Rex figure from the first Jurassic World movie, and this one is made by Hasbro. It's a tan T-Rex, quite a bit smaller than many of the newer figures here, and it has a single button on its back for a jaw-chomping action. So let's go ahead and put this on the original side here. And now let's check out the custom repainted version here. It is now in a bright red coloring with black spots all over its body and a bright green underbelly. Of course, it has the same button for that same jaw-chomping action. So now we're gonna put this on the repaint side over here, directly opposite of its original version. Next is a Pyroraptor from Jurassic World Dominion. This is a basic figure, but it still has some pretty cool coloring. It's got the black along the back, you can see feather texturing all over, and the red on the rest of its body. We're gonna put this on the original side here. And now let's check out the repainted version. And this one is a whole lot brighter. You can see that it's still got plenty of red on its body, but now it also has some blue on its leg, on the top of its head, and the feathers on the very top of its head are colored as well. Not very realistic looking, but pretty cool overall. So we're gonna put this on the repainted version over here. I've got another raptor figure to check out. This is an Atrociraptor figure. And just like in the movie, it is the classic white with brown striping. And this figure is a basic version as well, so there is no action button. And we're gonna go ahead and put it on the right side alongside all the other original figures. Now it's time to check out the custom repainted version of that figure. This version is now super bright yellow. It's got some orange and then the brown on the top. And the coolest part are these dark red eyes. So let's put this figure on the custom repainted side right over here. Next up for the originals, we've got an herbivore. This is a Spinosaurus, and this original version comes in the green coloring with some tan striping. It's got some bright orange along its face, and one single action button on its back for a head moving action. Now let's put this figure on the original side, and here is the custom repainted version. Check it out. It is now in brown coloring. It has some black circles on its back, and instead of the orange like the original version, it has bright purple along the front of its frill. This figure's pretty cool looking and overall pretty realistic, I think. So we're gonna put this on the custom repainted side. Next up is another four-legged dinosaur. This is the Triceratops, I believe from Jurassic World Dominion. It's got some dark green coloring on the back, some swamp green coloring on the front, and some bright orange on its frill. And as you can hear, it has some sound effects and a head ramming action when you press down on its body. So we're gonna go ahead and put this Triceratops figure way in the back over here. And now here is the custom repainted version. It is now in a bright gray coloring along the sides and a darker gray along the top. It has these red spikes all along the top of its frill and some dark green eyes. And we're gonna put this Triceratops on the left side to face off right next to its original version. Next up for the original side is this Scorpius figure. This is a really long dinosaur. It's got some bright blue on the sides with some orange and red, and then the purple on the top. Plus it has an action button that when you move its tail, it moves its head, as well as a chomping button on its tail too. Now let's go ahead and put this on the original side here and check out the repainted version. This Scorpius figure, obviously the exact same as this one, except it is a bright green color on the sides. It has a brown coloring along the top. I think this coloring would make it blend into the jungle a whole lot more. And of course it has the same chomping action and the ability to move its head around too. And we're gonna put this one right here on the left side. Now let's check out this figure from the Hammond collection. This is a Baryonyx figure. It has some pretty classic coloring with the gray on the sides and then the white that is outlining the dark blue along the top. And since this is the Hammond collection figure, it is super posable all over its body. So now let's put this on the original side right here. And let's check out the repainted version of that Baryonyx, now actually made to look like a Spinosaurus. So just like the Spinosauruses that we saw earlier, it has the brown side and then the red spine on the top with the blue circles on its spine. And just like the original version here, it of course is super posable. So now let's put this right here on the custom repainted side. The first dinosaur is this massive Indominus Rex predator from the new Dino Tracker series. It has a button on the tail to activate the sound effects and chomping. And check out that green lighting in its neck too. Next up is another massive predator. This is the Spinosaurus. And this one is actually pretty special because it is in the battle damage edition. And you can see the battle damage right here on the side that you can open right up and press a button to spin around. Way in the back here, this predator is another Indominus Rex, and this one is the Extreme Battle Damage Edition. Check that out. You can turn on and off the battle damage with the sound effects, and you can press the button on its tail for the chomping action. Next up, I've got a Giganotosaurus figure. This figure is almost as large as the Indominus Rex figures, and it has a button on its back to swing the torso around, as well as chomp its jaw open and shut. Next up is the new 93 Real Feel Tyrannosaurus Rex figure. It has the all red body and it actually has a stomach compartment so you can feed it smaller dinosaurs. Way in the back here is a custom painted Indominus Rex. It's been changed to be camouflage green and they added a bunch of blood around its jaw. Here is the Dino Tracker's Tyrannosaurus Rex figure with the headpiece, and it has one button on its back for the chomping action. Next up is another Indominus Rex figure, but this one is actually a hybrid one from the first Jurassic World movie. It's got some hidden spikes that you can pop up, and it's even battery operated for some jaw-chomping action. This predator is the Hammond Collection Tyrannosaurus Rex figure. It features an extremely posable body and amazing detailing and coloring. Here is another battle-damaged dinosaur. This one is the T-Rex edition, and right on its side, just like the Indominus Rex, it has the battle damage that you can turn on and off. Next up is this huge Triceratops figure. This is a whole lot larger than my other Triceratops, and it comes in the classic brown coloring. Next up is the Grab and Growl Indoraptor figure from Fallen Kingdom. It has an action button for slashing its arms and for chomping its jaw. This is the Scorpius Rex figure from Camp Cretaceous. It has a dark green body and is fairly posable. You can move the arms, the legs, and the tail and manually open and close the mouth. Here is the Pyroraptor figure from Jurassic World Dominion. This is the basic edition, so you can move its arms, its legs, and its tail, but you can't open and close the jaw. Here is a crazy looking Dilophosaurus figure from the first Jurassic World movie. It's got neon colors all over and a bit of battle damage right on the side. This next figure is the Sound Surge Tyrannosaurus Rex figure from Jurassic World Dominion. It's a lot smaller in size, and there's a button on its back for the sound effects. Now here's one massive predator figure. This is the Allosaurus in the Battle Damage edition. So just like the Spinosaurus we saw earlier, it has battle damage right on the side. This dinosaur, I believe, is called the Kentrosaurus. It looks a lot like a Stegosaurus, and it has these massive spikes right on its side, and there's an action button on its back to flip those spikes back and forth. Here is a Carcharodontosaurus figure in the blue, brown, and orange edition, and it has a single action button on its back for a chomping motion. Up next from the new Dino Tracker series is the Sinotyrannus figure. It's got this cool headpiece that goes all the way down to its back, and it has two action buttons, one for chomping the jaw and one for swinging the tail. Here is a Cryolophosaurus figure, I believe from Camp Cretaceous. It is in the dark blue version, and on this figure you can move the tail around to move the head with sound effects. This is another big predator figure. This is a Carnotaurus figure. This one's a bit older. It has the bright orange and red coloring and the button on its tail for chomping its jaw. And here is a newer Carnotaurus figure. This one is from Dino Trackers. You can see it still has very similar coloring, but this version actually has some buttons on its side for sound effects and lighting. Plus there is a chomping action button as well. This figure is the Stegosaurus figure in the dark blue-gray coloring, and it has a single action button on its back for swinging the tail back and forth. Oh, you know what? It looks like I've actually got two versions of this same figure. So these are twin dinosaurs right here. Up next is another Indoraptor figure, I believe also from Fallen Kingdom. This figure features a fully posable body, but no action buttons. Next is an Iguanodon figure from Jurassic World Dominion, and it features an action button when you press down on its back. This brightly colored dinosaur, I believe, is called a Scutosaurus. Check out those huge horns right underneath its chin. Here's another Indominus Rex figure. This one is from the first Jurassic World movie, and it features the battle damage right on the side that you can hide and reveal. Plus, it's got an attack action when you press down on the tail. This next figure is a baby Stegosaurus figure, and this one came out pretty recently. I really love the green coloring on this. And I've got another baby dinosaur in here. This one is the juvenile Nasutoceratops figure. And for the final figure in this first bin is a Minmi figure in the bright green coloring with spikes all over its back. Now it's time for the second bin, but before we do, let's check out this brand new Camp Cretaceous figure, the Gallimimus from the Fierce Force series. So it's a pretty small figure, probably around the same size as my other Gallimimus figures. Got some pretty cool camo coloring with the green on the sides and the brown on the top, and it looks like there's a single action button for moving its head up and down. Now let's check out this massive predator, the Mosasaurus. This is obviously an aquatic dinosaur, and it is a super long figure. Over here I've got another Spinosaurus figure. This is the Legacy Collection version, so it has the dark green coloring with the red spine, and of course the jaw-chomping button on the top of its head. Here's another predator, and this figure's pretty old, once again from the first Jurassic World movie. This is another Indominus Rex, and this figure has some real feel skin, so its head and its neck are a soft rubber, and there's an action that when you press down on its arm, it actually opens up its mouth. Next up is another battle damage T-Rex, but this one does not have the battle damage right here on the side. Instead, it has it painted on its neck, on its chin, and other parts of its body as well. And here's another Carnotaurus figure, but this is the Sound Surge edition, so it's a whole lot smaller, and it has a single button on its back for the sound effects. Check out this new Indoraptor figure from the Dino Tracker series. It has a chomping action when you move its arms, and another chomping action when you press down on its back. This figure is from Camp Cretaceous, I believe. This is the Scorpius Rex figure. It has the yellow underbelly and the black sides, and it's got two action buttons, one to operate its jaw, and another to operate its arms. Here is the new Legacy Collection Tyrannosaurus Rex figure. I bought this one quite recently. It's got some really cool green coloring with the gray and yellow on top, and the button on the top of its head for chomping. Next up is the Hammond Collection Metriacanthosaurus figure. It's got some really cool coloring and some orange on its nose, and like all Hammond Collection figures, features a fully posable body. This Predator figure is an Atrociraptor from Jurassic World Dominion. It is the basic series, so you can move its arms, its legs, and its tail, but you can't open or close its mouth. Check it out, here's another Mosasaurus figure, but this one's a whole lot smaller, and it's from the first movie. It's even got some battle damage right there on the side that you can open and close. And this gigantic figure is the Stegosaurus from the Dino Tracker series. It has this huge backpack and two action buttons. The first swings its tail up and down, and the second on the other side swings its tail side to side. Next up, this crazy looking predator is called the Ichthyovenator. It's got some bright green coloring on its body and a single attack action for chomping its jaw. Here is a Ceratosaurus figure in the dark green and black coloring, and it's got an action button on its back for jaw chomping. And here's another Ceratosaurus figure. This one's a bit older. I think it might be from the Fallen Kingdom collection. It's got totally different coloring and a single button on its back for jaw chomping. This figure is an Allosaurus figure. It's got the bright blue, dark blue, and tan coloring, and two action buttons on its back, one for chomping the jaw and one for moving its arms. This figure is the Ankylosaurus figure in the clay red, brown, and tan coloring, and it has a single attack feature. When you press down on its body, it swings its tail back and forth. Here is the Albertosaurus figure in the green coloring with the battle damage on the side that you can open and close. This big figure is the Therizinosaurus from Jurassic World Dominion. It features a tail that can move the torso around and a button for jaw chomping. Here is the Metriacanthosaurus figure in the yellow and green coloring, and it has a single action button on its back for chomping its jaw. I've got a Velociraptor figure here. This is from the first Jurassic World movie, so you can actually only move its arms and its legs. Its mouth is stuck open. Here is the Hammond Collection Triceratops figure. It's in the classic brown coloring, and just like the other Hammond Collection figures, is super posable and quite detailed. Here is another Scorpius Rex figure. This is the basic edition, so you can move its arms, its legs, and its tail, but you can't open and close the jaw, and it's quite a narrow dinosaur. Look how thin that is. Here is the Dryptosaurus figure from the Dino Tracker series, and it features an attack button on its back for chomping. I've got another Allosaurus figure in here with the tan and blue coloring, and the single action button on its back for the chomping and sound effects. Up next is a smaller Carnotaurus figure from Jurassic World Dominion. It features the dark green and orange coloring, and you can tell it's missing a horn, just like in the movie. This figure is the Ceratosaurus figure from Camp Cretaceous, and it's got the action button on its back for the roaring and sound effects. From the Dino Tracker series is this new Diabloceratops figure in the bright red coloring, and it has the action button on its back for sound effects and moving its head. Here's a similar looking dinosaur. This is a Triceratops figure in the green and brown coloring, and it's got two actions on its back, one for moving its head and the other for moving its tail. Here is the Eocarcharia figure from the Dino Tracker series. It's got feather texturing all over its body and a single action button on its back for the sound effects. Next up is a Baryonyx figure in the bright green coloring, and it has that same action button on its back for the chomping action. This crazy looking dinosaur is called the Irritator. It's got tons of different colors on its body and the action button on its back to move its head around with sound effects. And here is yet another Indoraptor figure. This one is the basic edition, so you can move its arms, its legs, and its tail, and it still has that really awesome coloring. This is the Hammond Collection Concavenator figure with the blue, the bright orange, and a little bit of brown coloring. Also from the Hammond Collection is this Irritator figure. It is in the gray and yellow coloring, and it has some really awesome detailing all over its whole body. And I've got another Triceratops figure. This one is from Jurassic World Dominion, and when you press down on its back, you get a roaring action. This is the Baryonyx Grim figure with the tan, bright green, and dark green coloring. And with this figure, you can use the tail to control the head. Here's another Hammond Collection figure. This one is the Ankylosaurus figure. So it is super posable just like the others, and it's quite a bit larger compared to my other Ankylosaurus figures. Next up, this crazy looking dinosaur is called the Sarcosuchus. And with this figure, you can use the tail to control the head and chomp the jaw. Next, from the Amber Collection, this predator is the Velociraptor. It comes in the brown with darker brown striping and is super posable. Here is the Sound Surge Giganotosaurus figure. It's a whole lot smaller compared to the Giganotosaurus that I showed you earlier, and let's check out those sound effects. This is a basic Velociraptor figure in the orange coloring. And check out those bright yellow eyes. Next up is a pretty wild looking figure. This is a Dilophosaurus figure. And when you press down on the tail, you get a chomping action. And here we've got another Dilophosaurus figure, but this one actually has the frills that you can pull out to the front. Here is another Velociraptor figure from the first Jurassic World movie. So you can adjust its legs and its arms, but you can't control its mouth or its tail. And here's our first winged dinosaur of this collection. This is a gigantic Pteranodon figure in the red and blue coloring. Next up is this Allosaurus figure in the dark green, white, and red coloring, and it has the action button on its back for the chomping and sound effects. This figure is the Regaloceratops from the new Dino Trackers series. It's got a bright yellow body and an action button on its back for moving its head with sound effects. Here is a Pyroraptor figure from the Gujitsu series. This figure is super stretchy, and if you look close inside, you can see that there's actually feathers inside of the goo. This is a hybrid T-Rex Dilophosaurus figure from the first Jurassic World movie. It's super bright with this orange and the shiny gold on top, and it's even got some battle damage on the side. Also from the first Jurassic World movie is this miniature Spinosaurus figure. It also has the battle damage on the side, and you can control the head by moving the tail. Here is a smaller Velociraptor figure in the yellow and brown coloring. And check it out, it's got the battle damage right on the side that you can open and close. Here is a Herrerasaurus figure in the green and brown coloring. And check that out, it also has the battle damage right there on the side. Look at this, I've got the Velociraptor Beta figure, and it even has a little dial on its back so that you can open and close its mouth. Here is an Allosaurus figure from the first Jurassic World movie. It's got the bright yellow and red on its body, and you can use the tail to control the head. I've got another winged dinosaur here. This one is a Dimorphodon figure in the bright red with some orange and yellow on its wings. Here's another Dilophosaurus figure. This one is mostly purple, but it has tons of yellow, orange, and red on its frills. And check this out, here's a bunch more Velociraptor figures. This first one is green and brown, and it has some green specks on its side, which is pretty cool. Here is a miniature Hammond Collection Velociraptor, so this figure is super posable. There's also this classic brown Velociraptor figure with the reflective green eyes. And then I've got two Velociraptor blue figures in here. This first one is a classic one without any special features, but this one right here is actually spring-loaded in the legs, so it'll actually jump up into the air when you press down on it. Oh, looks like I missed a few other raptor figures. I've got a sneaking green Velociraptor figure here, and I've got a white with brown stripes, a Trosiraptor figure. Here is a Monolothosaurus from Camp Cretaceous in the dark green, yellow, and red coloring. There's this Stygimoloch figure in the red-orange coloring with the striping on the sides, and with an attack that when you press down on its tail, it activates the headbutting action. Here is another Gallimimus figure, but this one is in a tan coloring, and it has some striping along the top. Next, there's this smaller dinosaur that I actually can't remember the name of this species, but it has some pretty cool red and blue coloring. Next is another winged dinosaur. This is another Pteranodon figure. It's mostly gray, but it looks like it has some purple detailing on its face and on its feet. And there's a single action button on its back for flapping the wings. And there's this weird looking little dinosaur. I think it might be an Atrociraptor. You can actually turn it on so it's battery operated, and then it'll move around. And it's got some sound effects too. Next up in this collection are a few Snap Squad figures. I believe this first one here is a T-Rex figure. I've also got the Dilophosaurus figure in this collection. and then finally an older Carnotaurus figure. And for the final four, I've got a bunch of super miniature figures. I've got Velociraptor Blue in a super tiny figure. There's also this Indoraptor figure in the crawling pose. And here is a Stegosaurus figure with the brown and green coloring. And finally, but certainly not least, a miniature Mosasaurus figure. The first figure is this giant Tyrannosaurus Rex. It's got a dark green body with the yellow underbelly and the black top and a button that activates the jaw. This figure is the Dino Tracker series Indoraptor. Check it out. And there's a button on its back that activates the jaw too. Here is the Camp Cretaceous Spinosaurus. This figure is ginormous, and it's got the button at the top of its head to activate the jaw. Over here we've got another Tyrannosaurus Rex figure. This one's a little bit smaller. It's got the brown coloring and the jaw attack button. This is the Dino Tracker's Sinotyrannus figure. It's got two buttons on its back, one to activate the jaw and one to activate the tail. Here is the Suchomimus figure with the dark blue and yellow coloring. It's got the big spine running down its back and an attack button for its jaw. Here is an old Jurassic World figure. This one was actually custom painted to be red and black, and it has an action button on its back to activate the jaw. This is the Carcharodontosaurus figure with the blue, orange, and brown coloring. This is the Albertosaurus figure in the green and orange coloring, and it has an attack button on its tail to operate the jaw. Next up is the Sound Surge Tyrannosaurus Rex from Jurassic World Dominion. Here's another Dino Trackers figure. This is the Diabloceratops. Check out that awesome red coloring and this action button that moves its head. This Pteranodon figure, I believe, is part of the Amber collection. It actually has rubberized wings, so it feels really realistic. This is the Rowdy Roars Carnotaurus figure. It's got the classic coloring for a Carnotaurus and an action button for chomping. Here is the gigantic Tracker Stegosaurus. It comes with this cool backpack feature, and it has two buttons on its back that swing the tail up and down and back and forth. Here is a classic Baryonyx figure with the reflective blue coloring on the top of its head. Next up, we've got a Cryolophosaurus figure in the bright yellow coloring with the brown and orange detailing. This figure right here is a Spinosaurus. This is a basic figure, so there's not a whole lot you can do with it, but you can move its arms, its legs, and its tail. Here from Jurassic World Dominion is an Iguanodon figure. It's got the soft tan coloring and an attack button when you press down on its back. This figure is a Kentrosaurus. It looks quite a bit like a Stegosaurus, but it's got these huge spikes on the side that you can swing back and forth. This figure, I believe, is called an Edmontosaurus. It's got some pretty cool coloring, and you can use the tail to control the head. Next up, we've got a basic Velociraptor figure in the orange color. You can move its arms, its legs, and its tail. Here is the dark green Ceratosaurus figure. It has a slide lever action on its back to activate the sound effects and its chomping action. This is a Triceratops figure in the brown, blue, and dark blue coloring. And on this figure, you can move the tail to move the head around. Here is an older and pretty rare Jurassic World figure. This is a hybrid Tyrannosaurus and Dilophosaurus. And check out that super bright coloring. Up next, we've got a Sinoceratops figure in the soft green coloring. And this figure features the tail that you can use to move the head around. This next figure is an Allosaurus in the gray and yellow coloring, and it has an attack button on its back to chomp its jaw open and closed. Here's a dinosaur figure that I don't have that many of. This is a Concavinator. It's got a huge spine on its back that actually you can press to swing its tail back and forth. Plus, there's an action button on the front of its back to chomp its jaw open and closed. Here is a Pteranodon figure with foldable wings. And when it's fully expanded, it's probably over a foot long. Plus, there's a button on its back to flap its wings back and forth. Here is a miniature Indominus Rex figure with a little bit of battle damage on its side. I've also got this older Jurassic World Allosaurus figure, and it looks quite a bit different from the new Allosaurus figures that Mattel is releasing. Up next is a miniature Dilophosaurus figure with the purple and some bright yellow, red, and orange. This is a Moros Intrepidus figure from Jurassic World Dominion. It's got the green, orange, and white body. Here is a Velociraptor Beta figure. It's got the classic blue stripe down both sides, and you can move its arms, its legs, and its tail too. Next, I've got a battle damage Atrociraptor figure. Check it out, you can turn on and off the battle damage with the click of a button. Here is a Pachycephalosaurus figure in the orange and green coloring, and it has an action. We press down on the tail and it headbutts. Check out this crazy looking dinosaur. I actually can't remember the name of it, so let me know in the comments below if you know what it is. Here is a super bright Velociraptor figure with the red and the green stripes on top, plus it's actually spring-loaded. Up next, I've got a Zuniceratops figure with the green and dark blue coloring. Check out those huge horns on the top of its head too. Here's another spring-loaded Velociraptor. This one is brown though. Up next is a small Parasaurolophus figure, and actually what comes with this figure is a Dr. Ian Malcolm figure. This is a Dimetrodon figure with a huge bright orange spine all the way down its back. This figure is the baby Brachiosaurus with the light green and darker green coloring on top. Here I've got a Monolophosaurus figure with the brown and gray detailing. From Jurassic World Dominion, this is another Atrociraptor figure. This one has the orange and the tan striping. I've also got a miniature Pyroraptor figure here. This one has the classic red and black coloring, along with a feather texture along all of its body. I've also got some more miniature Velociraptor figures in here. This first one has an action button on its back to swing its arms back and forth. And I've also got this bright yellow and brown Velociraptor figure too. It's got some battle damage right there on the side. This unusual figure is a Minmi dinosaur. It's got the spikes all the way down its back and on top of its head. This next figure is a baby T-Rex, and it comes with an action. When you move its tail, it chomps its jaw open and closed. And here we've got a miniature Pteranodon figure. Plus it has an action button on its back to flap its wings. Let's open up some brand new ones next. Let's see what this one is. These are a bunch of uncaged, wild pop-ups. First up, we've got Velociraptor Blue. Next up is a Dilophosaurus. There's also a Carnotaurus. And best of all, a Tyrannosaurus Rex. Next up, I've got a new Jurassic World Dominion Triceratops figure. Let's check it out. This Triceratops has the soft green body with the darker green and the orange in the front. Let's move on to our second bin here. This figure is the Siamosaurus from Jurassic World Dominion. It's got a button right on its tail to activate the jaw. Up next is the Ankylosaurus from Jurassic World Dominion. It has a super long neck and an action button to activate the jaw. Now here is a really cool looking T-Rex. This is a custom colored T-Rex to look like fire. And of course, it's got the button at the top of its head to open and close its jaw. Here is the Scorpius Rex figure from Camp Cretaceous. It's got two action buttons, one to activate its jaw and one to activate its arms. This is a battle damage Baryonyx figure. You can check out that battle damage on its neck and on its leg, and it has an action button on its back for chomping. This interesting looking dinosaur is an Amargospinus. This dinosaur also has a long neck and some amazing looking spines on its back. Here is the Jurassic World Dominion T-Rex with the Battle Damage Edition. You can click the battle damage on and off just with the button on top. Here's a vintage Jurassic World figure. This one is actually a hybrid T-Rex. I think it's mixed with a Spinosaurus. Check it out. It's got some spines that pop out right at the top of its back. Next up, we've got the amazing Therizinosaurus from Jurassic World Dominion. You can use the tail to swivel its body around and use the action button on its tail to open and close the jaw. Next up, we've got a Stegosaurus figure in the light blue-green color. Plus, it has an action button. When you press down here, it swings its tail back and forth. Here's one of the largest Atrociraptor figures that I have. This one comes in the classic white with brown striping. I've got another extreme battle damage T-Rex here, but instead of battle damage shown right here, there's actually painted battle damage all over its body. Next up, I've got a Sarcosuchus figure. This dinosaur is really long and short, and you can use the tail to control the head. Here's another T-Rex figure. This one is in a soft brown with darker brown along the top, and of course the action button at the top of the head to operate the jaw. Next up, this figure is the Giganotosaurus. It has two action buttons, one to swing its torso, and one to open and close the jaw. This is the Indoraptor with the gold stripe and the black body, and it is a very posable dinosaur figure. This is the basic Velociraptor blue figure. You can move its arms, its legs, and its tail, and of course it's got the awesome iconic coloring. From the Hammond collection here, we've got the Baryonyx figure. It is very posable, and it's got some awesome coloring too. Here's a crazy looking dinosaur. This is a special edition Ankylosaurus figure. It actually has a removable shell. I've also got the regular edition Ankylosaurus as well. This figure is from Jurassic World Dominion. This is the Sound Surge Giganotosaurus figure. Check it out, it's another Sarcosuchus figure, but this one has some different coloring with the purple, orange, red, and blue. Here is another Ceratosaurus figure, but this one is in the brown and orange coloring. Let's check out that chomping action. Here is a vintage Jurassic World Mosasaurus figure. It's a lot smaller than the figures that are coming out with now, and it's got some battle damage that you can open and close right on the side. Next up is one of the largest winged dinosaurs. This is the Quetzalcoatlus. This figure has two action buttons, one to flap the wings and the other to open and close the mouth. This figure is super old. This is a Jurassic Park Spinosaurus figure. Here are a few small figures. These are both Gallimimuses. I've got another Dimetrodon figure in here. This one has an action. When you press down on its tail, it opens and closes its jaw. This winged figure is a Dimorphodon. Check out those fiery wings. From Camp Cretaceous, we've got a baby Ankylosaurus Bumpy figure. This next figure is from Jurassic World Dominion. This is Amiragaya. Check out those huge spikes coming out of its shoulders. Next up, we've got another classic Ceratosaurus figure. This one has the yellow, black, and red coloring. Here's another dinosaur with some huge spikes coming out of its back. This is a Sauropelta. This next little dinosaur, I believe, is called a Coelurus. It's got a tan body with some brown and some blue detailing. Over here, we've got some Monolophosaurus figures, one in a soft green color, and it's got some battle damage on the side, and one in a dark blue with some tan coloring. I've also got some more Velociraptor figures in here. I've got a Velociraptor beta figure. Here's another spring-loaded, super bright Velociraptor figure. And a dark green Velociraptor in the stealth crawling pose. This next figure is a Carnotaurus, and this one is from Jurassic World Dominion. It's pretty unique because it's got the dark green body with the orange detailing, and it's also got a broken horn on the top of its head. Here is a Stygimoloch figure. It's got some gray and some dark blue coloring, and some huge spikes coming out of its head. Plus, this figure has an action. When you press down on its tail, it activates the headbutting. Here we've got another aquatic dinosaur. I believe this one is called a Plesiosaurus, and it has one action button on its back to flap its flippers. And last of all, we've got a baby Triceratops figure in the light green coloring, and some battle damage on the side that you can open and close.
Want to see more dino videos? Click the subscribe button now.